In a ballroom filled with wealth, power, and polished pride, a young CEO stunned everyone by reaching for the hand of a janitor still in his faded uniform. The music swelled, whispers sharpened, and what began as a simple dance would soon ignite a storm of scandal, defiance, and a choice that could change lives forever. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The ballroom glowed beneath the crystal chandeliers, their light scattering across polished marble floors. Music filled the air, a soft yet commanding sound that set the tone for the evening. Every guest, dressed in gowns and tailored suits, carried themselves with power. This was not a night for the ordinary. It was a gathering of leaders, investors, and social figures who lived at the very top. Natalie Grayson walked among them, the youngest CEO her company had ever seen. She moved with the calm of someone used to eyes following her. Her confidence was not loud, but steady, like a flame that did not waver. She had faced critics before. She had faced headlines that tried to crush her name. But tonight, the judgment in the room was sharper than ever. What none of the guests expected was the moment Natalie would extend her hand. Not toward another executive, not toward a wealthy partner from her circle. Her hand reached for someone entirely different, Michael Hart, the janitor who had been quietly cleaning along the edges of the room. His faded uniform carried the marks of long hours. The mop he leaned against the wall was still damp from work. His calloused hands bore the signs of a man who scrubbed and polished without thanks. Michael had not come for celebration. He had come to earn his living, to keep the floor shining beneath the shoes of people who rarely looked his way. Gasps swept through the room when Natalie stopped in front of him. Silence pressed against the walls as though the chandeliers themselves were waiting to see what would happen. She spoke softly, her voice calm but certain. "Dance with me." Michael froze. His heart pounded as though the music had turned inside of him. He looked at her like she had stepped out of a world far beyond his reach. "Ma'am," he whispered, "I'm not supposed to be here like this." But she did not let go of his hand. Her grip was steady, not forceful, but sure enough to silence the doubt rising inside him. She guided him toward the center of the floor. The crowd murmured in disbelief. Some whispered insults hidden behind polite smiles. Others leaned closer, hungry for scandal. Michael's steps were clumsy at first. His shoes felt heavy against the polished marble. The scent of bleach still clung to his hands, a reminder of who he was and how the world saw him. He kept his eyes low, afraid of the storm of stares around him. But then a memory rose, uninvited yet powerful. He saw his daughter, Sophie, spinning in their small kitchen. Her laughter had filled the cracked linoleum space as he guided her steps, teaching her how to move to the music from their old radio. "Daddy," she had giggled, "you dance like a prince." That memory steadied him. His shoulders lifted. His steps grew less uncertain. The music no longer belonged to the crowd. It belonged to him and to the woman who had chosen to see him. Natalie leaned closer, her words threading into his ear. "Maybe you belong here more than anyone," she whispered. The words struck him deeper than she could have known. For years, Michael had been invisible. He had scrubbed gum from tables, bussed marble until it shone, swept away the remains of parties where his presence had never been acknowledged. Yet, in this moment, with the eyes of the most powerful people in the room upon him, he was no longer hidden. Still, the room did not soften. Suits whispered like snakes. A woman draped in diamonds sneered, "This is humiliating." Another man muttered, "A janitor on the ballroom floor, ridiculous." Michael's chest tightened, but Natalie's steady gaze anchored him. Her presence beside him was not pity, it was recognition. As the violins swirled, the unexpected dance unfolded. Every movement carried both tension and wonder. Michael's world of long shifts and sleepless nights collided with Natalie's world of wealth and power. But for those few moments, the difference between them blurred. And yet, beneath the surface, something greater was building. None of the guests knew that Michael was a single father. None of them knew the weight he carried each day. None of them knew what Natalie would ask him before the night came to an end. The music continued, suspense thick in the air, as if the ballroom itself held its breath. What had begun as a dance was already becoming something more, something that would change both their lives forever. The ballroom air grew heavy with whispers. Voices slithered through the crowd like sharp blades, each word meant to cut. The guests could not believe what they were seeing. A CEO, the most powerful woman in the room, choosing to dance with the janitor. Shock turned into murmurs, and murmurs turned into sneers. Natalie Grayson felt the heat of every stare, but her expression never wavered. She held her head high, her hand firm on Michael Hart's shoulder. She had faced boardroom battles that tested her courage, but nothing compared to the piercing judgment echoing through this grand hall. Michael felt the weight even more. He had never been in the spotlight. His world had always existed on the edges of rooms like this, cleaning after others. Invisible until someone needed him to fix what was broken. Now he stood in the center, the music pulling him forward, the stairs pressing down like fire. Ridiculous, a man muttered near the wall. A janitor in the spotlight. What is she thinking? A woman in diamonds shook her head, her voice dripping with disdain. She is humiliating herself, humiliating all of us. Michael's steps faltered, his throat tightened. For a moment, he wanted to run back to the safety of shadows, back to the quiet corner where no one noticed him. But then a memory pushed through his fear. He remembered Sophie, his daughter, her small bare feet tapping on their kitchen floor as he guided her clumsy turns. She had laughed freely, her curls bouncing as she told him, "Daddy, you dance like a prince." That memory, soft and fragile, gave him strength. He lifted his chin, his steps steadied, his hands, rough with work, no longer trembled. He let the music guide him, and for the first time in years, he felt like more than his uniform. Natalie leaned closer, her whisper firm and gentle. "Don't let their eyes break you. They've never lived your fight." Her words pierced through the noise, grounding him. It wasn't pity she offered, but truth. And in that truth, Michael felt something he had long forgotten. Dignity. The violins rose around them, but the room's tension only grew. The powerful men and women gathered in the hall did not like what they saw. This dance challenged the lines they had drawn between themselves and those they considered beneath them. Then the crowd shifted as Gregory Grayson, Natalie's father and chairman of the board, stepped forward. His silver hair gleamed under the chandelier light, his presence commanding silence. His voice cut through the music like steel. "Natalie, what have you done?" he asked, his tone cold, his words heavy with warning. The music faded, but Natalie did not let go of Michael's hand. She stood tall, her gaze locked on her father. "I danced," she said simply. Gregory's eyes narrowed. His finger jabbed the air toward Michael. "With him? In front of investors? Do you have any idea what this does to our reputation?" The guests gasped again, scandal rippling like a wave. Michael's shoulders stiffened under the weight of humiliation. His fists curled at his sides, but he stayed silent. He could not afford to lose this job. ... But Natalie's voice did not tremble. "Michael Hart has worked here longer than most men in this room. He cleans your offices, fixes what you break, and keeps this building alive. If anyone deserves respect, it's him." The words landed like fire. Whispers erupted once more, sharp and furious. Some scoffed, others shifted uncomfortably, unwilling to meet her eyes. Michael swallowed hard, torn between awe and fear. No one had ever spoken his name with such force in a room like this. He bowed his head, whispering, "Thank you, ma'am, but I should go. Please, don't make this harder for yourself." He tried to step back, but Natalie's hand tightened on his. For the first time that evening, her voice cracked, not with weakness, but urgency. "Michael, stay." The single word echoed like thunder across the ballroom. Stay. It was a command and a plea all at once. Guests exchanged looks. Investors frowned. Gregory's jaw tightened with fury. Michael froze. Her request collided with the truth he carried every day. The bills stacked on his table. Sophie's school fees waiting to be paid. The endless grind of survival. How could he risk all of that for this moment? Yet when he looked at Natalie, he saw something in her eyes. Not pity, not performance, something real. The room hissed with cruel voices. "She's losing her mind," one man sneered. "Dance with trash and you'll smell like trash," another spat. Michael's fists clenched tighter. The insults dug deep, dragging years of anger and shame to the surface. He wanted to walk away, but Natalie's words struck him again, firm and steady. "If you leave now, you let them win." The challenge held him still. Slowly, he turned his eyes back toward hers. For the first time in years, he didn't look down. He looked at the faces around him, the ones who mocked him, the ones who dismissed him, and he didn't look away. The ballroom, once filled with music, now pulsed with 10. This was no longer just a dance. It was the beginning of something greater, a defiance against the walls that had held him down his entire life. The music had faded, but the tension in the ballroom only grew sharper. Whispers turned into open mockery now. Men in tailored suits leaned toward each other with smirks, while women in glittering gowns shook their heads, as if the entire scene was beneath them. What had begun as a dance was no longer about movement. It was about power, about who deserved to stand in the center of the room. Michael Hart stood rigid, his chest tight. The weight of years pressed down on him. Years of being invisible, of being reminded he was nothing more than the man who polished the floors. Every insult, every sneer he had endured seemed to echo in the voices around him. Gregory Grayson's voice cut through the noise once again. "This spectacle is over," he thundered. "Natalie, you have shamed this company and yourself. Step away from him, now." Natalie's grip tightened on Michael's hand. She did not bow to her father's command. Her voice, though steady, carried the spark of defiance. "I will not." A ripple of shock spread through the crowd. No one defied Gregory Grayson, not even his daughter. Michael's instinct told him to retreat, to walk back into the shadows where no one could tear him apart. But Natalie's words from earlier lingered. "Don't let their eyes break you." He swallowed hard, torn between fear and the flicker of pride building inside him. The insults grew louder. "Pathetic," someone muttered. "He doesn't belong here," another added. Laughter followed, sharp and cruel. Michael's fists curled at his sides. His throat burned with the weight of silence he had carried too long. His body screamed at him to stay quiet, but something stronger pushed against it. For the first time, he raised his head and let his voice carry across the room. "With respect," he said, his tone low but steady. "I've cleaned these floors long enough to know the dirt isn't always on the ground." A collective gasp spread through the hall. Glasses paused mid-air. Heads turned sharply. The janitor had spoken back. Natalie's lips curved into the hint of a smile, while Gregory's face darkened with fury. "You dare," Gregory began, his voice filled with venom. But Michael didn't stop. Years of silence broke loose like a flood. "You think I'm nothing because of this uniform, but I've raised a daughter alone since she was 4. I've worked double shifts, walked miles when my car broke down, skipped meals so she could have shoes for school. I've given everything I have, so she could grow up believing she mattered. The room stilled. The laughter died. Even those who mocked him most could not meet his gaze. "So forgive me if I don't bow tonight," Michael continued, his voice firmer now. "Because maybe you have wealth, maybe you have power, but I have something you will never understand: dignity." The word rang across the ballroom like thunder. Silence pressed in, heavy and unshakable. Then a sound broke it, the hurried steps of small shoes against marble. The guests turned, shocked to see a little girl running toward the center of the floor. "Daddy!" Her voice carried high and clear. Michael's heart stopped. Sophie. She was supposed to be with a neighbor, safe at home. But here she was, her curls bouncing, her eyes wide and filled with worry. She threw her arms around his leg, clinging tightly. "I was scared you wouldn't come back." Michael bent down, scooping her into his arms. The crowd erupted with fresh whispers. "A child? He brought a child here?" Voices sharpened with judgment, each word meant to wound. But Natalie's gaze softened as she stepped closer. Her hand brushed lightly over Sophie's hair. "Hi, sweetheart," she said gently. "You must be Sophie." The little girl nodded shyly, burying her face in her father's shoulder. Natalie's words followed, calm but strong. "Your dad is very brave." Michael's throat tightened. He hadn't wanted Sophie to see him like this, surrounded by scorn. But Natalie's kindness shielded him, turning humiliation into something bearable. Gregory's voice shattered the fragile moment. "This is pathetic. Natalie, if you don't walk out of here right now, I will make sure neither of you ever steps foot in this company again." The threat cut through the room. Investors shifted uneasily. The future of everything Natalie had built teetered on the edge of collapse. But Natalie did not flinch. Her hand rested firmly on Michael's arm, her chin lifted high. "No, Father, if you can't see his worth, then maybe it isn't him who doesn't belong here. Maybe it's you." The ballroom gasped, as though the chandeliers themselves had trembled. Michael's heart pounded. He didn't know what scared him more, losing his job or watching Natalie burn every bridge she had built for him. But before he could speak, her eyes locked onto his, fierce and unyielding. The breaking point had arrived, and nothing would be the same again. The ballroom trembled with whispers. Investors leaned into each other, their voices sharp with panic and judgment. Waiters froze in place, unsure if they should continue serving. Chandeliers glimmered above, casting light over a moment that felt more like a battlefield than a celebration. Gregory Grayson's voice thundered across the hall, cutting through the chaos. "Natalie, this is the end of your career. If you walk out of here with him, you are finished. No board seat, no inheritance, nothing." His words carried finality, a threat no one dared to challenge. Silence followed, heavy and suffocating. Every eye turned to Natalie, waiting to see what choice she would make. Michael Hart stood frozen, his daughter Sophie clinging to his neck. His heart raced like a drum in his chest. He wanted to protect her, to keep her away from the cruelty of this room. He wanted to tell Natalie to let go, to walk away before she lost everything. He leaned closer, his voice low, almost broken. "This is your world, not mine. You don't have to risk everything for me." But Natalie's eyes burned with fire. She looked at him as though she could see the years of struggle carved into his face, and her answer came steady, sharp. "Do you think I fought my way here just to impress people who only care about money? I became CEO to make a difference, and right now, the difference I choose is you." Her words struck him like a force he had never known. Michael had always been the one left behind. Opportunity had never knocked for him. Yet here she was, choosing him in front of the very people who wanted him invisible. Gregory's fury shook the room. He slammed his hand against the table, his voice cold with rage. "You are throwing away your future for a janitor." Michael's chest tightened, the insult slicing into him. But before the shame could take root, Natalie answered firmly, her chin lifted high. "Then my future is better without the approval of people who cannot see his worth." The crowd gasped again. The room spun with whispers, some horrified, some fascinated. For the first time, the power in the hall shifted. It no longer belonged to Gregory alone. Natalie's defiance carried weight, and people were listening. Michael's throat burned. He had taught Sophie to never let the world make her feel small. Yet he himself had spent years shrinking back. Now, with Natalie standing like a shield beside him, something inside him shifted. His voice rose, steady and clear. "All my life, I've been told I don't belong. But tonight, for the first time, I am done listening. I belong wherever my daughter and I choose to stand." The words echoed, filling every corner of the ballroom. Sophie stirred in his arms, looking up at him with wide eyes. "Daddy, can we stay with her?" she whispered softly. The question broke him. Tears pressed against his eyes, but his voice stayed steady as he kissed the top of her head. "Sweetheart, this is not our place." But Natalie's hand pressed gently over his. Her voice cut through, stronger than the doubt in his chest. "You belong anywhere you decide, and if you let me, I want you to stand here with me." For a moment, time itself seemed to pause. The chandeliers shimmered, the crowd held its breath, and the weight of choice pressed heavy on Michael's shoulders. He looked at Sophie, her small arms wrapped tightly around him. He looked at Natalie, her eyes fierce but tender, refusing to let the world diminish him. And for the first time in years, he did not feel invisible. He felt seen. He felt chosen. Michael drew a long breath, his voice steady. "If I stay, it won't be easy." Natalie's lips curved into a faint, determined smile. "Nothing worth it ever is." Gregory's face burned red, his rage boiling over. "You will regret this, Natalie. You are destroying everything I built." But she did not turn to him. Her gaze stayed fixed on Michael. Her voice softened, almost a whisper, but filled with conviction. "Stay." And this time, Michael did not hesitate. He nodded, holding Sophie close, his heart finally at peace. "Then I'll stay." The ballroom erupted again, outrage from some, disbelief from others, but none of it mattered. Not anymore. For the first time, Michael was not just surviving. He was standing tall. He was chosen. And as Natalie's hand slipped firmly into his, the chandeliers above seemed to glow brighter, as though even the light itself recognized the truth. This was not an ending. It was the beginning of something new. And so, in a single night, a janitor and a CEO defied every whisper and every wall built against them. This was not the end of their story. It was only the beginning. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below.